Good evening, everyone, for joining our webinar series, Drought Management. With much planning and coordination, we have put together 6 webinars, 1 webinar per week on Thursdays at 5:30. I want to thank everyone online and those of you who are joining us by telephone. The Native American Producer Success Project is putting on this webinar in coordination with the Southwest Climate Hub. NAMPS, which is Native American Producer Success Project, is a collaborative effort between Developing Innovations and Navajo Education Incorporated, New Mexico Cooperative Extension Service, and the Nick College Land Grants Office. The project is funded by USDA's Office of Partnership and Public Engagement, Outreach and Assistance for Socially Disadvantaged Farmers and Ranchers, and Veteran Farmers and Ranchers Program. Also, the USDA Southwest Climate Hub is one in a network of 10 hubs across the nation working to support resilient agroecosystems and forested landscapes in the face of climate change. We operate in 3 functional areas: science synthesis, convening, and decision making. The Southwest Climate Hub helped to co-launch the Drought Learning Network. The DLN is a consortium of climate service providers and resource managers and strives to share critical drought-related knowledge to help future resilience. Today, we are going to have a presenter with Farm Service Agency Drought Programs, Lisa Garay. Lisa, you want to go ahead and begin with your first slide, and thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I am Lisa Garay. I work for the USDA Farm Service Agency, and I am one of our county directors here in New Mexico. So I know we do have some people on the line from Arizona, and everything that I'm going to talk about today, they are federal programs, meaning that they are good throughout the country, no matter what state or county you are in. As long as you meet the criteria to get in for these programs, you're going to be eligible. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the information that I'm going to be presenting today isn't just specific to New Mexico or the 4 counties that I service. It's going to be nationwide. So this is just the topics that I'm going to cover today. I'm going to go over our NAP program, which is often referred to as our crop insurance. I'm going to go over the Livestock Forage program, the Livestock Indemnity program, the Emergency Livestock Assistance program, and the Coronavirus Food Assistance program. I'm also going to touch a little bit on our USDA website, farmers.gov. So I always like to go over some USDA terms with people, just because sometimes we ask you these questions and you have no idea what we're talking about. So when we refer to socially disadvantaged, that's going to include any underserved or minority groups of people, which will also include women. Limited resource, that's a person with a direct or indirect gross farm sales of not more than 179,300. Now we do this, they come up with this number for every fiscal year. So that's the actual dollar amount for the 2021 fiscal year, which we are in right now. So you can't have made grossed more than that for each of the previous 2 years. And be a person with a total household income at or below the national poverty level for a family of 4 or less than 50% of the county median household income in each previous 2 years. So if you're not sure, if you think that you maybe might qualify under limited resource, you can hit this link and it'll take you to the website, and you can put in your information, you'll put in your state, you'll put in your county, you'll answer a few questions, and it'll generate and let you know if you do qualify under limited resource. And then the last thing is beginning farmer or rancher. All that means is that you couldn't have been farming or ranching for more than 10 years. So these are 3 critical terms that, as I go along through my presentation and explain our programs, they could be very beneficial to you. So I would like for you just kind of take a minute to see if you qualify under any of these three terms. So NAP, Non-Insured Crop Disaster Assistance Program, or the Crop Insurance Program, as I know it's referred to by a lot of my counterparts and myself. So what it does is provide financial assistance for non-insurable crop losses due to a natural disaster. Big key here is you must be enrolled in the program before the growing season starts. Like I tell people, think of it as liability car insurance. You've got to have coverage before you have the accident, so it will cover the loss. So the terms that I just went over, like I said, they're going to play to your advantage. So if you qualify under socially disadvantaged, limited resource, or beginning farmer or rancher, you don't have to pay the fee for the crop insurance. So I don't know how many farmers I have on the line. I don't know how many ranchers that I have on the line. So the NAP program is kind of split. There's NAP for native grass that's going to play by these rules, and then there's all the other crops that play by another set of rules. So for NAP for native grass, we are going to start providing compensation after a 50% loss. Typically, the Natural Resource Conservation Service and our County Extension Service will do a range loss assessment for us annually. The other thing to remember on this program is we're not worried about the livestock. Just simply signing up for crop insurance on your rangeland, on the native grass. Now, unfortunately, the deadline to get coverage for 2021, that deadline was December 1st of 2020. We do have some late file provisions, so if you didn't get in, I would definitely contact your county office to see, what the requirements are for late file, if they can still squeeze you in or not. So here's an example of our 2019 grazing loss percentages that are approved by our state committee. And in New Mexico, we graze 365 days a year. Arizona, I'm not sure. I think they're probably very similar to us. But in New Mexico, because we graze all year long, these assessments aren't done until the end of the year. So actually, my county committee just approved our percentage of losses for 2020. That's going to get sent up to our state committee for their recommendation in February. So this map will probably be coming down for the 2020 grazing years sometime the end of February into March. And that's how we're going to get paid. So remember, like what I said is we don't compensate until after a 50% loss. So the first 50% of the loss is on the rancher, then FSA is going to come in and pick that up. So for example, two of my counties that are almost in the center of the state, Bernalillo and Valencia, last year they were assessed at a 55% loss. So what that means is those ranchers are only going to get actually paid on 5% of their total native grass that they had coverage on. So that's just a little bit of how that program works. Now, like I said, NAP, these are all the other rules that do not apply for native grass. This is going to be all of our orchards, vineyards, and row crops. So, like I said, if you qualify under the socially disadvantaged, limited resource beginning farmer, guess what? You don't have to pay the service fee. And with all these other crops, you can actually buy up your coverage. So what the benefit is to buying up your coverage at 5% increments is you're reducing the percentage of loss that is on your part. So for example, on this table, if you buy your coverage up all the way to 65, that means that you only have to sustain a 35% loss before FSA starts kicking in. And now you're getting 100% of the price instead of 55%. So, and if you are socially disadvantaged, we cut the premium price in half, because anytime you start to buy up, there's a premium attached per acre per crop. So it's just going to depend on how many acres of whatever crop you're going to be insuring, that will determine the premium amount. But like I said, if you qualify under SDA, you have to pay the $325 service fee, and we cut the premium in half. So pretty big win-win deal if you can qualify under any of those three things. So here's a list of all the crops that we can cover under, and it does vary just a little bit between counties and I think states, that if private insurance is available for these crops, you have to go through RA and a private insurance agency to get that. But we're going to look at all this table. Unfortunately, we are already at the very bottom to qualify 2021 NAP coverage. Friday, well, actually Monday, since January 31st is a Sunday, that's going to roll over to Monday. That's a pretty big deadline for my counties to get 2021 NAP coverage for alfalfa, mixed forage, peppers, which is going to include all of our green chili, red chili that we all really here in New Mexico, and I think they really like it in Arizona as well. So the top row, unfortunately, the deadline has passed. We do have late file provisions. There are a few hoops that you have to jump through to still obtain coverage, and it's at a certain point, I don't remember how many days it is that you just are out of luck to get it. But like I said, it's very important. I stress oftentimes that it's like car insurance, got to have the coverage before you start raising the crop. So that's all that I've got for now. So we're gonna move on over to the livestock forage program. This one has been huge in the last 10 years that it's been out there because we have been in such a severe drought for a very long time. So this one is providing compensation for livestock feed losses to drought conditions or fire on federally managed land. Now, the rancher must have owned the livestock 60 days prior to the county becoming eligible. You must have a current permit, lease, or deed verifying your ranch operation, and also the term that you can be out there on. I know New Mexico, Arizona, we typically do graze all year long, but I do see some federal leases that are only allowing the person to be out there for maybe 6 months to 3 months out of the year. So we do have to be careful with that. The county, the livestock graze in, must be in a D2 drought status for 8 weeks consecutively for the county to trigger to be eligible for LFP. This is a huge one. So for 2020, the deadline is going to be Monday because January 30th falls on a Saturday. That deadline is going to carry over to Monday. So if you have not applied and you qualify, please get into your FSA office immediately. So this program works off of the US Drought Monitor, and at the very bottom you can see the website that you can go and you can check this. It's updated every Thursday. And the reason why I have an example here of December 29th is all of our livestock programs that I'm going to cover today, they run on a calendar year, January 1st through December 31st. Now, for all of them, we give you at least 30 days after the end of the year to compile all your documentation or simply to get into the office to sign up for this program. So like I said, for livestock forage, it actually ended on December 31st, but we're going to give you 30 extra days to get in to apply. But anyways, for this example, December 29th, 2020, in order to be eligible, like I said, the county has to be in this D2 drought status for 8 weeks consecutively. And it can just be a slight touch of the county. The whole county doesn't have to be in one color. As long as any portion of the county is in a D2 status, the whole county is eligible. So like I said, here's an example of New Mexico not looking so great. So all of our counties were eligible for LFP this year. So I always get questions as to, how much compensation livestock owners going to get. And, especially at the beginning of the year, well, this year is probably going to be the exception to the rule. But like last year, some of my counties weren't in. Some of them were only at a D2 status. Some of them were at D3, D4. So here's how we calculate the payment factors. So when the county triggers and they hit that 8 consecutive weeks at a D2, you're going to get one month payment is kind of how we like to explain it. When your county goes in 1 day for D3, you automatically get bumped up to 3 months of payment, okay? Then if it stays, if it's in and out for any 4 weeks in a D3, you automatically get bumped up to 4. Or if your county goes into the most exceptional drought, the D4 for 1 day, you automatically get bumped to a 4-tier payment. And then if it stays in the D4 for non-consecutive weeks, you get up to the 5-tier payment, which is the maximum amount that you're going to get. So this is the last map for the year. So this is the maximum amount of payments that our ranchers are going to be getting for 2020. As you can see, the four corner states, you know, our western states are terrible, terrible, terrible. Arizona, you guys look like New Mexico. Pretty much the whole state is in the max tier. So if you guys are like me, when you go in to apply for something, you kind of want to get an estimate of how much you're going to be getting out of it. So for 2020 payments, we were looking at about $19 an animal unit for a 1-tier payment. As you can tell for both of our states and the Four Corners, I don't know if anybody's spilling over into Colorado or Utah, but all those counties are eligible 5-tier payment, which, you know, I know these people are going to need it. I think everybody would rather have rain than getting the money, but this is where we're at for 2020. Now, because we are in such a severe drought, you guys saw the Drought Monitor, we are going to go ahead and roll into 2021 eligibility for most of our counties in both states, but we are awaiting the payment rate. So that usually comes out about March for 2021 payments. So you can always apply in your county office, but they're not going to be able to approve it and get you payment until the new LFP payment rates are established. So like I said, that usually happens about March. So please be a little patient with them when you are applying. Or if you haven't applied for 2020 yet, and you do have a valid permit, and you have owned your livestock for 60 days prior to the drought, which has been pretty much the whole year, please get in, you know, by Monday to get enrolled in this program. All right, next program I'm going to talk about, Livestock Indemnity Program. This program provides compensation to the producers for 75% of the market value of an animal that died due to adverse weather conditions in excess of normal mortality. Rancher must have owned the livestock 60 days prior to the death, must provide the county with proof of beginning inventory, must provide county office with proof of death, must provide the county office with producer management practices. So what's an adverse weather condition? Well, unfortunately, drought is not going to be an eligible weather event for livestock indemnity. Neither will poor management practices. If you just kind of throw your livestock out on the llano and you don't ever go check on them, you don't ever go make sure that they do have water, that they do have adequate feed, we're not going to compensate you for losing animals that way. Some things that are eligible under this program are going to be floods, blizzards, extreme cold, wildfires, extreme heat, and lightning. And what I always like to tell my producers is, call anytime you find livestock dead, call me, report your loss, and I'm going to be able to tell you, yes, we can cover it, or no, we can't. But if you don't ever report it, there's nothing that I can do for you. Now, in that very beginning slide of how you get compensated and how you're eligible, I said in excess of normal mortality. Mortality is a percentage that each state figured, a percentage that you're going to lose any year, because that's what happens in ranching. So New Mexico State Committee has approved these percentage rate normal mortality. For adult beef, it's 1.5%. Non-adult is 3%. That's going to be your heifers, steers, your calves, horses, sheep. So what this means is for adult cows and bulls, it's 1.5%. So if you've got 100 head cows and you come in and you want to claim them as a loss, you're going to have to lose 2 before we can start paying you for them. So if you're claiming 5 that you lost and you started out with 100, we're only going to actually be able to pay you for 3. So people usually get a little hung up on this, but when we do have major weather events, blizzards, wildfires, even lightning sometimes, most people can get past this normal mortality rate fairly easily. So like I said, you need to report the loss to the county office within 30 days. Due to COVID, many of our offices are closed to the public, not allowing people in. So by phone, email, even if you leave a voicemail, you know, and you could be checking your cattle on a Saturday or a Sunday and you find them dead and it's fresh in your mind, call and leave a voicemail at the county office. Or if you're really good with email, send your county office an email saying, hey, I found steers dead. We had, some extreme heat going on. We had an extreme cold break. I mean, it's kind of like right now that we've been getting some snow in some of the areas that don't ever get snow, things of that nature, but you need to report it within 30 days. The nice thing about this program is it runs on a calendar year, January 1st through December 31st. So you can file multiple notice of losses throughout the year. And like I said, that's how you're going to cross your normal mortality rates. Is you may have lost a few animals with the cold storm that we just had with snow, but you didn't lose enough to get over that normal mortality threshold. And then come summertime, maybe we had a freak thunderstorm, a few got struck by lightning. Guess what? Now you're over the normal mortality. We can start compensating you for the livestock that died by the lightning storm. So with this program, like I said, we're only going to be compensating for losses from January 1st through December 31st. But we're going to give you an additional 60 days into the new year to compile all of your documentation to get into the office and sign your actual application for payment and provide us with the supporting documentation. Here's some of the supporting documentation that we're going to request from you. We need your beginning and ending inventory. We've got to tie you down to an inventory for the year. Here's an example of some tax records for one of my counties. I deal with a lot of the Pueblo grazing associations. So their tally counts that they do each year, sometimes they do them twice a year, those will work. Brand inspections, if you have a farm loan with us, they usually go out and do chattel inspections. There are a long laundry list of things that we can accept, but I have highlighted the most popular that most people that have applied for this program with me could come up with fairly easy. Now, the other thing that we do request is proof of death, which is going to be a contemporaneous producer record. Could be something similar to the example that I've got here, a calendar. I know a lot of ranchers have their little pocketbooks that they keep in their shirt pocket each day. Could be on the dash of the pickup truck, whatever it is that you're writing down what you're doing each day. If you went and took salt blocks, if you went and fixed, if it was a crazy snowy day that you got 4 inches of snow that you never get in October, write it down. This is for us just making sure that you have good management practices. You are doing everything in your capability to keep these animals alive and keep them healthy. The other thing that we do require are pictures of the animal. So I didn't put an example on here because I didn't think anybody really wanted to be looking at a bunch of dead cows, but it is important. Most of us are carrying around a phone with us at all times. Simply snap a couple pictures of that. It's going to capture the date on that, and that way you can just see your account at your time of application for payment. So that's it for the Livestock Indemnity Program. Here's another one that has been very popular in the last few years because of the drought. It is the Emergency Assistance for Livestock Program. This is the program that encompasses livestock water hauling, okay? So your county must hit a D3 drought status for 1 day to be eligible for water transportation. Now, the hangup with this is we will only pay for up to 150 days of water hauling. So going into 2021, I really hope that the weather changes, but if it doesn't, I know we're going to have a lot of producers capping out at the 150-day maximum payment rate. So like I said, this one is enough of a calendar year, so that's why I used December 29th again on the Drought Monitor. But if you look at the green arrow, that's just simply showing you what drought status the county had to be in to become eligible for water hauling. So as you can see, all of the counties in New Mexico were eligible for livestock water hauling as of the end of the year. So everybody was eligible for 2020 livestock water hauling. The only thing that people kind of get a little bit confused or they get a little upset is we can only start compensating from the date that the county went into that D3 status. So for some counties that were eligible, it was for 2020, it wasn't until September for a lot of them. So even though that they were hauling water through the summer, we could not compensate them until that date that they hit that D3 status. But anyways, this program runs on a calendar year. So going in 2021, I think a lot of our counties are already eligible for this and probably will be for the rest of the year. But that's how it works. County's got to be in a D3 status for 1 day. This is huge, guys, and this is a lot of miscommunication, a lot of misunderstanding with our producers, but you have to report to us the day that you started hauling water within 30 days. So if you started hauling water January 1st, you better call your office by Monday because we can only go back 30 days. So you need to call us within those 30 days of starting to haul water. If you don't, that county office is only going to be able to go back 30 days from that you notified them of that. And if you're getting close to the end of it, sometimes it could make it where it's not necessarily worth your time. So like the Livestock Forage program, the application for payment deadline is January 30th. So for this program, report your notice of loss, report that date that you start water in 30 days, and then we're going to give you an additional 30 days at the end of the calendar year to get us all of your support documentation. So like I said, like most of our livestock programs, you needed to have owned the livestock 60 days prior to reporting the water hauling. They needed to be physically located in a county where the eligible drought occurred. So sometimes when the Drought Monitor is only reporting a few counties, and if you're in two different counties, 2 different states, sometimes, you know, that your ranch is, and that happens a lot, that your ranch kind of encompasses multiple states. If one of the counties that you're running in isn't eligible for water hauling, we're not going to be able to compensate you for those pastures until, or it just may not be able to compensate it if it never rolled in. You need to be transporting during an eligible grazing term. Like I said, I know for New Mexico, most of our leases are 365, or if it's private property, you can go ahead and graze it all year long, but I know we do have some leases that are not 365. So if you have one of those leases that maybe you can only be out there for 3 months or 6 months, we can only pay you for the time of the term on the lease. Here's another big thing. You needed to have an adequate livestock watering system or facility before the eligible drought occurred. So I know a lot of my ranchers have just got dirt tanks, and that's totally fine, and that's eligible for this program. You didn't collect enough rain or snow to have water for your animals. But I know that there are also ranchers out there that take on some pastures that there is no water source. There's no creek, there's no windmill, there's no dirt tanks to catch any type of rainfall. That's not going to be eligible. Okay, you can't normally be transporting water to these animals to be eligible for this program. Whatever kind of water facility that you normally had, if you had a creek or some kind of water source that runs through your grazing pastures, and that's where your livestock were watering, that's eligible, because if it dried up during the drought, or like I said, our dirt tanks that it didn't collect enough rainfall. But if you have some pastures that even on the wettest of years, you're going to have to transport water out there, that's not going to be eligible. So please keep that in mind. Okay, documentation, water bills, invoices, if you had to hire labor, if you're having to pay for water, if you're paying somebody to transport the water, we're going to need copies of those receipts. We're going to need a picture of your livestock watering facility or system, simply because for COVID, we can't run out and do spot checks for you to say, for me to call you up and say, hey, you said your livestock, your dirt tank or your windmill went dry. Let me see it. So we're requesting producers to take pictures of the watering system that went dry because of the drought. And then also, if you're not necessarily dumping the water back into the dirt tank, if you're maybe dumping it in some drinkers, please take some pictures of that. We're going to ask for a contemporaneous record, which was kind of similar to the one that I had showed you guys before. It can be a diary, it can be an Excel spreadsheet, it can be a calendar, like I said, it could be one of those pocket books that you keep around. We just need to see that you're documenting if you're hauling water each day, if it was every other day, if it was twice a week, if it was times a month. We want to see that kind of documentation. All right, so we're going to want to know the number of gallons of water that you transported. So when you come in to apply for your, for your payment, we're going to say, what was the total number of gallons that you transported during this time frame? And then we also want to know the number of eligible livestock that you were hauling water to. We want to know how many cows, how many bulls, heifers, steers, calves, sheep, goats, horses, whatever you were hauling water to, we need to know. We also need to know if you did it yourself, if you had to hire it on, or if you contracted it on. All right, so that's all that I have for the water hauling. Now, I know this isn't drought related, but we have, because of this coronavirus, and it has taken such a hit on agriculture because restaurants are closed, schools are closed, just kind of a weird time for us. Congress allocated the CARES Act, and under the CARES Act, they gave Farm Service Agency this coronavirus food assistance program. So this first round started May 26th and went till September 11th. Okay, you can see nationally how many applications nationwide FSA took. We were at basically 10.5 billion nationally in what we paid out in that time frame. And the top three categories, as you can see, for that first round, 5 billion went to cattle, 2.6 to our non-specialty crops, and 1.7 went to dairy. So then they said, okay, restaurants are still closed, schools are still closed, agriculture can't sell anything, the farmers and ranchers need some help. So we did a second round. And that one went from September 21st through, and it just ended last month, December 11th. Now you can see that our applications went up. We paid even more out. And I think that we still have some county offices. I know myself, we still have a few that we're trying to wrap up because we had such an immense workload. So many people were coming out and applying for this stuff because everybody is hurting right now. So as you can see, nationally, we've paid out 13.2 billion on this. Top three, corn was at 3.4 billion, cattle at 2.8, and sales commodities, the way that we paid for all of our row crops was based on their sales revenue for 2019. So I put a little chili there because chili in New Mexico is huge, and that it falls under the sales commodity. So that was at number three, 2.3 billion for that. So if you didn't get in on those, what I've been reading and what I've been seeing is we probably will be doing a third round of coronavirus. And from everything that I've been seeing, probably going to happen sometime late spring, probably about March or April. Now, if you don't, correspond with your county office or your state office very well, I would urge you guys to go to farmers.gov, even if you don't do the CFAP backlash. But that is such a great website for all USDA agencies, not just FSA, because they list programs, you know, the deadlines that are coming up. If you have more information, you can click on and it's going to send you to the service center that's going to serve you by your county. It's really, really a great resource. Now, like I said, coronavirus food assistance program blew up nationwide. We had so many people applying that don't normally apply with us. So what our national office did was they set up this call center. And I know it's disabled right now because we don't have a third round of coronavirus, but I just wanted to leave this on the slide because if we do this third round, you do have the capability to apply for coronavirus on farmers.gov. You even have to go into a service center. But if you get hung up or the forms are overwhelming, you can call this number. And when you call this call center, these folks are going to walk you through the whole process, and then they're going to send you to the service center where you're located. So it's a really great tool. It's really kind of helped alleviate we still got a lot of phone calls, don't get me wrong, and a lot of emails, but it really kind of helped out the county offices by them setting up this call center. And it helped out a lot of people that weren't sure where their local county office was located, since a lot of us are multiple county services. So like I said, I wanted to leave that there, touch a little bit about that. Here is the farmers.gov website. This was the homepage a few months ago, but as you can see in the center of the page, program deadlines. They're going to put whatever's going on with FSA. I believe they put NRCS stuff on there. A lot of the USDA programs information is going to be on here. Farm Loan Discovery Tool, if you're thinking you may need to go that route and work with our Farm Loans Division, going to kind of help you out. You're just going to answer a few questions and they're going to set you in the right direction. Like I said, this is a great, great website. I would highly recommend everybody set that to their favorites in their web browser, because that's going to be your number one spot versus any of the texts or emails that are coming out of our offices. Because I know for myself, and I'm sure my counterparts on the line are going to say that we've just been way overwhelmed and probably not serving our producers as well as we normally do, just because we haven't had the time. But this is my information. If you are in New Mexico and you're not in any of my 4 counties, please don't hesitate to call me, email me. I can set you in the right direction. Like I said, our programs are federal, so the rules and regulations and everything like that are the same all over the country. So it shouldn't really matter what county or state. As long as you qualify, you will, as long as you're eligible, then you can apply at your local service center. So that is all that I have. I guess we can open it up for questions.
Okay, folks, those that want to share or ask questions, you can either put it in the chat box or raise your hand. I believe you would have that option on your phone. Okay, I have one hand up, Lisa. Ernest Deswood.
The question I have is concerning the Livestock Forage program, where you can buy additional coverage. And we weren't aware of that, and we're wondering, can we go in, let's say tomorrow, and take care of this to get the additional or purchase the additional coverage?
Okay, so for the Livestock Forage program, there is no additional coverage. You might have been thinking about the NAP, the crop insurance, and that's just going to depend on what crop you want to insure. So, if it's chili, and you want to buy up your coverage all the way up to the 65%, I think there are some late file provisions that you can go in and do that. But like I said, there is a premium attached to that. So just kind of be careful. You may want to have them run it out for you prior to you signing up for that. That way you know how much your premium is going to be before you do that.
because this is for native grasses.
Okay, so like I said, the NAP is kind of a different program because we have native grass, which you cannot buy up. 50% is the maximum. All of our
Okay.
other crops, you can buy up the coverage. So yeah, you didn't miss anything and you weren't misinformed. Unfortunately for the native grass, you cannot buy up your coverage. It's just 50%, 55% of the market price.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Ernest. Marjorie?
Hi, this is Marge Lantana from Crown Point, New Mexico. Something new to me that you presented is the coronavirus food assistance program. You mentioned that this could be, we could sign up for this program with our cattle industry. What kind of information do you require for this program? Let's say I'm a producer and the cattle producer. So what do I need to sign up for this program?
Okay, so between the first round and the second round, on the first round, we were paying for, and it was a time frame, I believe it was February through May or something along that line, and we were just paying for, I believe we were paying for the cows and the bulls. I think we were paying for everything, and then also there was a column for the things that you sold. Now on the second round, we were only paying for non-breeding livestock. So that was going to be your calves, your steers, and any heifers that hadn't calved as of, I believe, August 30th. So, and you didn't have to provide any leases or anything like that. It was all self-certification. So with the round 3 that's pending, I don't know what it's going to be. It's still up, in Congress and with our national office that they're coming up with the new rules for the CFAP 3.